Okay, we're on lesson 3.5, which is solving systems of equations. I will be giving a bonus problem on the test that has you work out one the long way if you want to, and I will actually probably give you that on Thursday of this week. And you can give it to me anytime before the 19th, which is when the test is due, and I will take it. But I'm not going to require you on the test to work these the long way. And here's what I'm saying when I mean the long way. So we're solving systems of equations. Here's a problem that they've given you, and they've kind of written out in words some steps that you can follow to do this. I'm not going to read that to you. I'm going to kind of work through a problem with you. So this is the long way. The calculator has a way to do it a very short way that we'll talk about next. But to solve a system of equations, what we're doing is we're looking for a place where we have a similar x and a y and a z, that if we plug in that x, y, and z, it will solve each one of these. Okay, so we need an x and a y and a z that will work for every one of these equations. The rules whenever you're solving a system of equations is you can add the rows, you can subtract the rows, and you can multiply or divide the rows by a number. Okay, so you'll kind of see that as we're going through this. So when I look at the first one, the first thing you want to make sure that you have, if you're doing this the long way, is you're going to make sure your x's are lined up, your y's are lined up, your z's are lined up, then you need your equal sign, and then you need your constant number lined up. Okay, even when you're doing it in the calculator, you're going to need for those things to be lined up. Okay, now they've kind of focused on equation 2 and 3. So they've numbered their equations up here, 1, 2, and 3. So so far, those are the ones we have to work with. And then they decided, look, I'm going to take these two equations and I'm going to add them together. Okay, and the reason that they do that is because the whole goal here is you want to get rid of something. You want to get rid of one of the variables. And so when they were kind of brainstorming this, they looked at the original equations up here and they said, well, there's a plus z and there's a minus z. And so if I add a plus z and a minus z, I'm going to get nothing, right? And so that's why there's no one way to do this every time. It's problem solving. It's like working a puzzle. So that's why they came up with, okay, I need to start eliminating a variable. And so they added row 2 to row 3, and they got 7x plus 1x is 8x. 3y plus 1y is 4y. 1z minus 1z, that's nothing. And then 4 plus 0 is 4. And so now they say, well, this equation, 8x plus 4y is equal to 4, is another equation that I can work with. And they're calling that equation number 4. So we've got 1, 2, 3, and now we've got a fourth equation we can work with. Is everybody okay with that? Okay. Then it says select a different pair of equations and try to eliminate z again, because if we can eliminate z again, then we can start eliminating x and y, because we'll have two equations to work with. So they have picked equation 1 and they have picked equation 3. So they got to looking at this and they were like, okay, there's a 6z right here. So if I can get this to be a minus 6z, then when I add 6z and minus 6z, those will cancel out. So the other thing, you can add the rows or you can subtract them. And then we said you can multiply or divide them by something. So they picked multiplying both sides by 6. So they took everything here and they did 6 times x, they got 6x. They did 6 times y, they got 6y. They did 6 times a negative z and got negative 6z. And then the last thing, and don't forget, this one just worked out nice for us, but you also have to multiply it by that last number, which is 0, but 6 times 0 is just 0. Okay, then they're going to take these and they're going to add these two rows together. So 3x and 6x is 9x. Negative 2y, positive 6y, 4y. 6z and negative 6z, nothing, right? 1 and 0 is 1. And now we've got a fifth equation that we can use. So 9x plus 4y is equal to 1. Okay. Everybody okay with that? Now, this is really kind of confusing at the beginning, but once you find your first variable, it goes really quickly. So now they've taken this, I'm going to call this number 5. This is our fifth equation we could use. They've taken these two and they multiplied theirs by something, but I'm going to cheat a little bit because remember that we could, I'm going to write them right on top of each other. Remember that we could also subtract them. So if I subtract this 4y minus a 4y, right, that's going to be 0. Instead of subtracting, they multiplied one of theirs by -1, which is the same thing as subtracting. It's just, so either way will work. But so we've got 8x minus 9x, that's -1x. 4y minus 4y, that's nothing. And then 4 minus 1, you just got to remember that you're subtracting each one of these things. So 4 minus 1 is going to get you 3. So if we divide by -1 on both sides, we would have x is equal to -3. Okay, and I'm going to kind of come over here. I'm going to go up here actually to the very top. I'll scroll back down. We found one of ours, x is equal to -3. Once you find one of those things, you can really fly with this. Because the goal is to find y and z now. So if we know x is -3, what should we do? We can use any one of these 5 equations. Plug it into either 4 or 5, right? Because if we know x is -3, you're exactly right. We can plug in x into the either 4 or 5 and find out what y is. Okay, I'm going to try to stay with what they did. They said to plug it into 8x plus 4y, which was number 4. So wherever there was an x, they put in that -3 that we found. They kept everything else the same. So 8 times -3 is -24. Okay. Looks like they just skipped a step. And that's okay. But they needed to add 24 to both sides. So 4 plus 24 got them the 28. Divide by 4 on both sides. So y is equal to 7. Okay. See, to get that first one was a pain, but now it's like, okay, we got the second one, y is equal to 7. And you might find z first. You might not find them in order like this, x, y, and z. Now we just need z. So we're going to use that same strategy again. If we know x and we know y, we can find z. Probably going to need one of these equations, 1, 2, or 3 that z is in. And to me, the third one looks like the easiest because it has no numbers and coefficients in the front of it. So I could go and plug in, and that's what they did. For x, we knew x was -3, so they plugged in -3 for x. They knew y was 7, so they plugged in 7 for y. We don't know what z is equal to 0. So -3 and 7 is 4, minus z equals 0. To solve this, they added z to the other side, which was pretty smart. Instead of subtracting 4 and then multiplying by -1, they just added z to the other side. And so that they got z is equal to 4. Okay. So when you write your answer, they wrote, your answer is always going to be x, comma, y, comma, z. Sometimes they use other letters like R, S, T. Okay. It's always going to be in order of whatever, in alphabetical order, how you do your commas. Okay. So unless you do the bonus problem on the test, this is the only time I'll really ask you to work this out the long way this way. Now, when we get to 3.6, there's going to be some problems that you have to solve using kind of using some problem solving things, but they're not quite as complicated as these. So let's look at our graphing calculator and how we solve this. I'm going to go very slow on the first one, and I'm going to come back to my notes to write down kind of what we did. Okay, so if you know how to do this already on your graphing calculator, I'm sorry, but there are people here that I know that don't know how to do it. So I'm going to go slow. I'm going to make sure we explain it, because it's going to be really easy if you can do this. We said the first thing that we want to do is we want to make sure all our X's are lined up, all our Y's are lined up, all our Z's are lined up, all equals, and then our numbers, which is true, right? We need everything to be, this is X, this is Y, this is Z, we've got our equal sign, and we've got our number on the other side. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to type in our graphing calculator. We're going to hit second. So I'm going to write this down real quick. So to do this on the graphing calculator, first thing you're going to do is type in second, and then the button is actually X -1. Okay, and I'm going to go to the graphing calculator on the computer and help you guys with this, but you're going to hit second X -1. Okay, after you hit that second X -1, and I'll come back and write the steps for you guys in just a minute, you're going to scroll over to edit, and you're going to hit enter. Okay, when you do that, we do want a 3x4 matrix. So we went second X -1, we scrolled over to edit, we need to hit enter. Okay, and then the next thing is you need to type in your matrix. Okay, this one is a 3x4 because it has 1, 2, 3 rows and 1, 2, 3, 4 columns. That's why we're calling it a 3x4. And the stuff we would type in is our coefficients. So on the first row, we've got a 3, a 9, a 6, and a 3. So we would type in, you just type over whatever you already have there. So you're going to do 3, enter, 9, enter, 6, enter, 3, enter. And then the next row, we have a 2, a 1. There's nothing in front of that Y, so it's a 1. There's nothing in front of this Z except for a negative, so it would be -1. We've got a 2. And on the bottom, we have no coefficients, but we've got 1 X, 1 Y, 1 Z, and then we've got a 2. Okay, so that's what you're going to type over your whatever you already have there. Bless you. So let me catch up with you guys. Okay, everybody's with us. The next thing you need to do is hit second, and then right beside that, it says mode. And the reason you want to hit that is because it's quit right above it. So we want to hit second mode, and we want to get out of that screen. Okay, and I'll write that step down when we go back. Is everybody okay? You're going to do second X -1 again, so we can pull up our matrix. second x negative 1 again, pull up our matrix. We're going to go over this time to math. I promise you I will go back to that page and write all this down. Go over to math, and we're going to go down, 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 down until it says, this is important. We want the one that says RREF with the 2 R's. RREF, we're going to hit enter. Then we want second matrix. We're going to go, we do want matrix A, so we're going to hit enter. I like to close off my parentheses. I don't think you have to do that though. And then you hit enter. Okay, I'm going to kind of go back to our paper that we had. Let's do the rest of this. So the next thing we needed to do was we typed in our matrix. We had to do second mode, because right above mode it said quit. Right above x negative 1, remember that's your matrix. So then you hit second x negative 1 again, the inverse of x, because it has matrix above it. You go over to math. You go down to RREF. Then you hit enter. You do second x negative 1 again, because we want matrix. And this time you pick whatever matrix so you don't always put it in A. For instance, you might have put in more than one matrix, but you pick whatever matrix you have, and then we put ours in A, but then you hit enter. Okay. I closed off my parentheses and I hit enter again. Okay, and then it gave me an answer. The answer looked like, when it popped up on the screen, it had 1s on the diagonal. Everything else was a 0. And then it had some numbers over here. Okay. Whatever numbers are here, that's going to be your X and your Y and your Z. So 2, -1, and 1 are going to be the things that solve this problem. If you did not get 1s on the if this right here doesn't look like this, there's something wrong. It has to be like 1s on the diagonal and everything else is 0s. And this has got to be these are your answers. Okay. The way you type your answer, remember you would do X, comma, Y, comma, Z. Okay. Those 3 numbers are the numbers that you can plug into any one of those equations, and they are answers. They'll work for every one of those 3 equations at the top. Does anybody need me to go back to any of that stuff? Okay. Let's look at the next one. There's only one left. So let's do this one together and make sure you guys can get it. So they are lined up, X, Y, Z, equal sign, number. If they're not, you're gonna have to move things around so that they are. Okay, so the matrix we want to type in our calculator is 1, 1, -2, 0, -1, -1, 3, -1, 2, 5, 1, -5. Okay. I'm still going to go, I'm not going to write down every step, but I'm still going to go kind of slow on the calculator. So if you need me to slow down, I go back to my calculator. Going to go second matrix, go over to edit. That's one of the hardest things for me to remember, because I just want to hit enter and not go over to edit, but you got to go over to edit. Then we're going to type on top of whatever we already have. So type it in my coefficients. I will say this, a lot of times people get the wrong answers on these because they're in a big hurry to type things in. And I'm including myself in that group. So once you get it typed in, you might want to eyeball, just go back and eyeball real quickly that you got, that it is correct, which compare it to what you need to have. Okay, does anybody need me to slow down? Okay, next thing you're gonna do is second mode and get out of that. Then second x negative 1 again to get your matrix. We want to go over to math. We want to go down to RREF, enter. We need to, this is where we need to pick the right matrix. So we're just going to hit enter again. Second matrix, I hit enter to get that A to come up. I like to close off my parentheses. You don't have to. You're going to hit enter. So it looks like the answers are X is -2, Y is 0, Z is -1. So we got X is 2, Y is 0, Z is -1. When you write it in the computer, it would look like this. Okay. So this is what I was talking about. You can check yourself. Like I'm going to plug these in the bottom. So I'm plugging in for X, I'm plugging in 2. For Y, I'm plugging in 0. For Z, I'm plugging in -1. And it should equal -5 if I did this correct. So, so this is 4 plus 0 plus -1, which is not -5. What have I done? 2 and 5, 0. Did I write one of these down wrong?
It's -2.
Thank you for not letting me just suffer like that. So this is -4. So -4 and -1 is -5. Now I wouldn't go so far to check. I mean, if you want to be really sure of yourself, you can check all of them. You can plug it into all of them. It should work in all of them. But I know it works in that one, so I'm pretty confident we're okay right now. Okay. Questions about this stuff? In lab, if you need me to go back over the steps, I'll be more than happy to do that. Okay.